to follow. Yep, I'm next.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for indulging us there for this recess. Bring everybody back to order. The next on the agenda, we have a remembrance proclamation, and Officer Siegel, if you'll please take the front. Officer Siegel, yeah. Commissioner Siegel. Got the fans on high, yeah.
I'd like to call up Denise Miller and Tom Unkefer from the Quadrangle, please.
Is the air on?
Okay.
Okay. Some doors.
Almost exactly a year ago, I had the pleasure of attending the 25th anniversary celebration of the Quadrangle on Darby Road. And at that point, I quoted Mark Twain, who had said that age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And then at that point, I discussed the efforts of a variety of Quadrangle residents, including Roberta Ehrenberg and Lucetta Aldifer. And also the fact that the Quadrangle has a Committee on Governmental Affairs, which takes a significant interest in township events, and that Lucetta Aldifer at that time was the vice chair. But then I hearkened back to the minutes of the Board of Commissioners of November 15th, 2005. And three of our current board members were board members at that time, Mr. Lewis, Mr. McGarity, and Mr. D'Amelio. And when you look, you also see that the director of the paramedics was Mr. Gentili, Ms. Hanlon-Widdop was there, as was Mr. Denny. But the more interesting thing is those minutes showed what Lucetta Aldifer did for this township. And I will quote that she spoke about the reserve on behalf of 850 residents of Allgates West and the Northwest Civic Association, in addition to the Quadrangle residents. And she was there to support the modified original plan of 38.2 acres. They insisted that the condos be 4 stories or less, with parking underneath, and all infrastructure and roads contained in those acres. They wanted recreation to be given a top priority, with discussions as early as possible. Traffic control matters were important to them, as were safety, and they said that a committee should be appointed by their group to work with the commissioners and developers during construction. And that's exactly what happened. And we had people, Jan Marie Rushforth, others, who got involved, and the vision that Lucetta talked about that night is what we now have at the reserve. Unfortunately, Lucetta passed away on March 10th, 2016, and would have been better if we could have honored her when she was here, but she has served as the Grand Marshal of Haverford Township Day. And so the Board of Commissioners, we would like to remember Lucetta, but also in a way of thanking her, the other residents of the Quadrangle. We have Denise Miller here, the Executive Director, for all that they do for our community. They're a very active and vital part, as shown by minutes from 2005 that were the vision that's now the reserve. And the proclamation states as follows, that the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Haverford, County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania takes pride in those who reached out and served their community, and whereas Haverford Township recognizes, appreciates, and remembers Lucetta Aldifer, who passed away on March 10, 2016, for her many decades of extensive service to our community and to the residents of the Quadrangle about many issues: the Haverford State Hospital property, green space preservation, roads, and development issues. Lucetta was a regular attendee of monthly Board of Commissioners meetings, and it was her devotion at a meeting on November 15, 2005 that led to the final development of the Haverford Reserve. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Commissioners and the township residents extend a grateful thanks to Lucetta Aldifer for her many years of service. Lucetta will be sorely missed in Haverford Township and at the Quadrangle, proclaimed this 9th day of May, 2016, by the Board of Commissioners of Haverford Township.
Well done.
And our final proclamation for tonight, Mr. McGarity for the Centennial Proclamation for the Union United Methodist Church.
Yeah, is there Mary Jane or Kirby, Pastor Kirby? Are you here tonight? Chris, you want to come up with me?
Sure. Oh, okay. And it's not here?
No, we'll have to go.
Okay. Well, the Union Methodist Church on Brookline Boulevard had their centennial this year, and we have a proclamation for the church where it says here, whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Haverford, County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania takes great pleasure in recognizing one of Haverford Township's places of spiritual worship. And whereas commissioners and residents of Haverford Township wish to congratulate Union United Methodist Church, Brookline Boulevard, Havertown, PA, on celebrating their 100th anniversary milestone. And whereas the Union Church was founded in 1916 as Brookline Methodist Church, the first meeting place was on what is now Earlington Road, where Brookline Union Sunday School was established in 1913. Members of this Sunday school formed the basic of two churches, both of which started in 1916, Brookline Methodist and Temple Lutheran Church. And whereas, you want me to
Okay.
continue or? Okay.
And whereas the first worship service was held on April 16, 1916. Several years later, in November of 1922, the first worship service was held in the present building on Brookline Boulevard. Union celebrates its rich heritage of faith and ministry in the community and looks forward to serving the community in the years to come. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Haverford, extend to Pastor Mary Jane Kirby and all the congregation continued best wishes and a special thank you for serving the spiritual needs of the community and for reaching out for those less fortunate. The Board of Commissioners, Chris Connell is President, Mario Oliva Vice President, Mr. D'Amelio, Mr. McCluskey, Dan Siegel, Andy Lewis, Larry Holmes, Bill Wexler, and myself wishes the Union Methodist Church the best of luck. And Mary Jane Kirby. This is Mary Jane standing beside me.
We're just going to Photoshop her in. Okay, thank you. Number 4 on the agenda, the police crime, is the chief back? Crime update.
Thank you, Commissioner. For April of 2016, 230 traffic citations were written, 223 parking tickets, 149 written warnings. We had 4 burglaries in the month, 1400 block of Leadham Road for a vacant house, copper wire. There was no force. It's a vacant house. It's been that way for a period of time, and I think that the township or somebody's making some move to take it over and get it straightened out. 117 South Eagle Road, drugs and money were taken. A suspect was known to the victim, no force. On 47 White Marsh Road, unsecured attached garage, a bike was taken. 425-16 Dorchester Road, unsecured house, wallet, money. Suspect was known to the victim. 2 sex offenses, a juvenile victim, which is an ongoing investigation. In fact, it's 2 juvenile victims, 2 separate cases, are both ongoing investigations. We had a home invasion and a robbery in the 500 block of Ardmore Avenue. Money was taken. There's an investigation going on. It appears the house was target specific. 4/16/16, the Westchester Pike CVS store, theft of a customer's wallet from the counter. The victim located the suspect in the parking lot, attempted to retrieve her wallet. She was then attacked by the suspect. The mother and her juvenile son were arrested and taken to prison and juvenile detention. 4/2/16, 1925, Lawrence Road reported domestic strong arm robbery of a cell phone. The suspect was arrested. And once again, I report 31 vehicles were broken into in the month, all of them unlocked vehicles. Davis Road, a laptop was taken. White Marsh Road, a camera. 2 other vehicles on White Marsh Road, a small amount of cash. Myrtle Avenue, a large amount of cash, over $800. Sunglasses and baseball equipment from another vehicle. Another one on Myrtle, GPS, and loose change. Another on Myrtle, loose change. More continued Myrtle, 123, loose change and some tax documents. Millbrook Road, sunglasses and $20. Moreland Road, sunglasses and a debit card. Lewis Road, a $50 gift card. Twin Oaks, an iPod and loose change. 245 on Bennington Road with loose change taken out of the cars. I'm sorry, 6 on Bennington Road, whole loose change. Chestnut Avenue, 4, $5, $2 loose change, and $160. Glen Arbor Road, another iPad. East Hathaway, $5 and change. East Langhorne, $15 in loose change. Lawrence Road, loose change. Brentwood, 15. Brentwood, more loose change. Clemson Road, sunglasses, loose change. Princeton Road, a large amount of cash taken from an unlocked vehicle. Motor vehicle theft on East Park Road. The vehicle was left unsecured, the keys in the vehicle. We have since recovered that. Canine usage, we had medical emergency for an overdose, vehicle sniff. AOJ, Newtown Square PD at the high school assisted the Newtown Square PD for a locker search at the request of the school district. We had a building search for trespassers, open house for a building search, and we had 3 OAJ, assist other jurisdictions, Radnor and Park Road, Park, I'm not sure which PD it is, but the Delaware County PD.
Can I ask an unrelated question? I know that there's a bill pending before the Pennsylvania Senate that deals with allowing local police forces to use radar. I assume that's something that you support and that the police chief associations and other police organizations support?
We have supported it for years, and I believe that bill has come up before the state many, many times. Pennsylvania is the only state that doesn't allow their local police departments to use radar in the whole United States.
Do you feel that this has a better chance this time to pass, or is this just another?
No idea. It's difficult. I know that the Chiefs of Police Association in Pennsylvania strongly supports it. They were up there and spoke before the legislators, hoping to get this moving forward.
Yeah, seems like it would be a pretty important tool.
It's a very important tool. It's as it stands now, we have our enforcement methods. I won't say primitive, but they go back a few years, and we should be up there with everybody else who use radar.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
Once again, I'll
Chief.
say that to everyone, you have to lock your cars. You see every month I get up here and say the same thing. 25 to 30 cars are entered at unlocked vehicles. So we made robocalls. The commissioners put it out in newsletters. We stress it as much as we can. You have to lock your vehicles and don't leave valuables in your cars.
Chief, perhaps if you have a victim right in front of you, it might be more convincing. I may be 52, but I'm still young enough to learn a new trick, and that is to lock my car, because one of those cars on Chestnut Avenue was my wife's, and it was in our garage. And the cars on our street that did not lose anything from it were the cars that were locked. And the cars that weren't locked, all were rifled through. And while we only lost a few dollars and a few other neighbors lost more, we certainly lost a false sense of idyllic security that we've enjoyed on Chestnut Avenue for a long time. So I can assure you that my car is locked now, as are a number of my neighbors, but I can't emphasize enough to all of you, it's every street in our town is susceptible to this. Just lock the car. Nobody broke any windows, nobody cut any soft top roofs to get any radios or get it changed. They just took advantage of unlocked cars. So just make it more difficult and they'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree with what Larry's saying. When they come along and the car is locked, they try the door, and they say it's locked. All right, let's move on to the next one. Because they know they're going to find a lot of them down the street that are going to be unlocked. And that's exactly what they're doing. You didn't hear the chief say any broken windows, or like Larry said, no cut in the tops or anything like that. So that's what they're doing. They're just checking to see if the door's open. And when the door's open, it's like us saying, hey, we invite you in, take what you want. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I know you had a busy month last month, but if there's any way we can get an idea of whether the crime is getting higher, lower, what's the percentage?
As far as the
But compared to last year for every crime?
annual report is completed, you'll have it within
Okay.
the next couple of weeks, and it has the graph in there. You can see exactly where we're at.
And this is not, what's happening here is not unique to
no,
just
no,
Haverford,
it's-
it's all
it's-
Delaware County.
it's-
Right.
All
That's a
Delaware
good point.
County.
We wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
It's not just the streets of Haverford Township that are this way.
They're all having issues.
We're all having issues. And we have added.
Doesn't make me feel any better.
Well, but we don't want you to think that there's a
Guys feel any
crime
better about that? Our neighbors
No, I'm
feeling
not
the same
going on in
issue?
Haverford
Yeah.
Township.
No,
I
no,
feel
no.
so much better about my $2.35.
No, I'm not saying it makes you
Going
feel
for my
better,
wife's
but,
car.
and I've had it happen to me in the past, so I know what we went through. But it's not unique. I mean, it's been in the paper about the heroin epidemic and what's going on in Philadelphia and the surrounding communities, and it's bad.
Correct, Commissioner.
Well, I will segue, though, into, I've been in my house for 27 years, and over the 27 years, I've had 3 attempted burglaries. And I grew up here in Haverford Township where the door was always left open, what have you. But they were always attempted because what scared them off were the dogs. You know, we have 2 beautiful dogs, and they bark, and boom, they leave. And I want to say congratulations to Haverford Police Department. Had their Delaware County Canine Competition was this past weekend. And the handlers of the dogs and their display was absolutely tremendous. They reacted to the commands of the officers instantaneously, to the point where, I mean, they placed in every part of the competition, didn't they, and took over all. So congratulations to you and your force for the canine competition. Excellent job.
Thank you.
What they did. Next up, Township Auditor Update.
Good evening. I reviewed the disbursements for the period commencing April 12th and ending May 9th. I asked certain questions and requested substantiation of certain expenses. All the questions were answered. All the substantiation was provided to my satisfaction. Therefore, in my opinion, there were no irregularities for the period in question.
Any questions for Mr. Zotnik? No, thank you very much. Number 6 on the agenda is Citizens Forum. This is 20 minutes registered speakers and 20 minutes for agenda items. Tonight, this evening, our first registered speaker is, let's see, Mr. Corey. James Corey. And please give your address.
Sure. Good evening, my name is Jim Corey. My wife and I live at 1312 Steel Road. I'm here tonight with our friends and neighbors who live around Steel Field and Hilltop Park to speak on 2 items that have come to our attention within the past 2 weeks that involve the park. First item is the relocation of the skate park. We agree with Commissioner Bill Wexler, who stated in his email to us on May 2nd, and I quote, "I do not anticipate that the skate park will be relocated to either Steel Field or Richland Park based on the proximity to residences in both areas. This leaves the area next to the tennis courts at Murray Place as the only realistic site to be considered. We have prepared a petition in this very short period of time that we've been aware of the situation to submit to the Board of Commissioners, urging you not to permit the relocation to Steel Field or Hilltop Park. The second item is the parking lot expansion on the Steel Road. To date, we understand that the township has purchased the property at 1320 Steel Road, which is adjacent to the existing parking lot, for $300,000. Our understanding is that the township received a grant from the state in the amount of $100,000 towards this purchase. Because of the significant impacts on the neighborhood, we are concerned about how this expansion will be carried out by the township. As our Board of Commissioners, you can appreciate that our concerns and our questions are many. Potential for property values to be affected negatively is a real concern. Increased traffic, noise, safety, and environmental concerns are issues which entail many details. In fact, so many, I'm afraid that it would be impossible to address all of them here tonight. For years, the longtime neighbors around the park have lived with seasonal parking issue. We have lived there for 34 years. We agree that additional parking is necessary. We feel that this can be accomplished in a manner that takes into account all the issues, impacts, and concerns. We are looking towards a parking lot suitable to accommodate the need of this small dawn till dusk neighborhood park. In order to accomplish this, we cannot emphasize strongly enough the need for the residents to be kept aware of developments with the project. More importantly, we, as residents, respectfully request to be included in proposals, planning, and execution of the expansion of this parking lot. We've prepared this petition to submit to the Board of Commissioners requesting our participation in the design, development, and expansion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person up, and I did admit you were in under the 3 minutes. That was great. Thank you very much. It is 3 minutes for each person, and then we will answer at the end of the Citizens Forum. Carolyn Bonas? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Benass. I live at 34 Shelton Road. And I was asked to say a few words about the skate park, just from my mom's point of view. Skateboarding is a sport that has the same positive effects as any other sport, I believe. And as a mother of a 13-year-old boy who absolutely loves to skateboard, I've seen these positive effects in his schoolwork. He's a straight A student, honor roll, and at home, his behavior with his siblings. He's vastly improved since he's taken up this sport. And I believe that skateboarding is as deserving of a part as any other sport. Last Monday, the Parks and Rec Board approved the moving of the skate park to Merry Place Tennis Court. And I think this is a great idea, as a mom. In this park, it's already an existing recreational area with other activities going on. It is paved already, the tennis court. It's well lit, and the lights go off, I believe, at 10 or 8, I'm not sure. But anyway, they stay on long enough for these kids to really get their skating in. It's surrounded by canopy trees and a really big vegetative buffer, which is great. You can hear the blue root, so it drowns out any kind of noise. And I have a little bit of insight into this. I actually have a degree in landscape architecture, and I have some experience in park design. And that's another little tidbit. That's why I think it's a great place for the skate park. And I'd like to thank the Park and Rec Board for approving this. And I'd like to thank the commissioners for your consideration and everybody's help. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next on the list is Mike Armand for the skate park.
Good evening. It's Michael Armine, 25 Upland Road, Haverford Town. Just to back up, Carolyn, the skate park has been voted to move to Merry Place. So to the residents of Hilltop, we are out of your hair. But I do want to take a minute to thank, he's not here this evening, but Mario, Tim Denny, Larry Gentili, thank you very much for your support in helping us, answering our emails. Commissioner Wexler, setting up meetings with the residents just to see this through, get it moving. While the 2016 election has completely destroyed my faith in the current political system, you have stoked the fires of my, at least putting the faith in my local government. So I thank you very, very, very much. we will be moving on, buying ramps, buying equipment for the park, doing more fundraisers. We hope in about 2 years' time we can come up with the necessary funds to really do what we want with it. But we're going to be holding open meetings with the community just to see what they want, what kind of ramps they want put in, talk about design, things of that nature. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
On the list is Mark Verdi. Mr. Verdi? Okay.
Is he coming back?
Number 5, Mr. Mike Smith. Mr. Michael Smith?
Our names are Mike and Michelle Smith. We were here on the 7th of March to ask the commissioners 3 questions about a robbery that occurred in our house in December of 2015. At the meeting, we spoke of the chaos and inappropriate treatment that we received from Haverford Town Police. So let me be clear. No way am I denigrating the rest of the police department. We're talking about 4 individuals. I'm also disappointed that not one commissioner would show us the respect or the courtesy to answer the 3 questions that we asked. Not my commissioner, not the head commissioner, or the commissioner who's supposed to be the liaison between the police and the community. First question was, why do we as victims have to pay for our own investigation? We hired a private investigator, and he came to a few different conclusions. But after the meeting on 3/7, we were contacted by Detective Moore. He set up, on March 18th, he set up a meeting with our PI. Our PI showed him what he had compiled that Haverford Police was unaware of. Our PI informed him that the subject moved to North Carolina. He bought a new car, hoverboards, got new ink, and he went to Vegas, probably all on our money. Also, Detective Moore was told that the subject was facing 4 felony charges in Upper Darby. Our PI was kind of confused that nobody went down to Upper Darby to interview him, not once. Our PI also informed Detective Moore that the subject would be returning on the 29th of March in media. He thought it would be a good idea to get a face-to-face with him and maybe get a look at the vehicle. At the conclusion of the meeting, Detective Moore told our PI that this was an ongoing investigation and he would have to stop investigating. He told us, and Detective Moore told us, and he told our PI that he would put fresh eyes on it. He told us 2 detectives. We didn't get 2 detectives, we got 1. It's just disgraceful. So we went in and we talked to this new detective. We told him about the subject coming on March 29th. He said he didn't think that Haverford would approve going to North Carolina. But we told him again, the subject will be in media on the 29th. They didn't go. Instead, they decided it was a better idea to talk to him on the phone on the 30th. Does anybody in this room really think that's a good idea on the 30th, the next day? The second question that we asked the commissioners and that they didn't answer. Is it that much to expect the lead detective in this case to answer our questions and be aware of what his subordinates who conducted the investigation and interrogations had accomplished? On January 4th, we were told by Detective Wallauer that we weren't worth his time to look into a file. We were wasting his time, and that it was not his job to solve a crime. Just crazy. After the meeting, we met on the 24th with the detective, and we kind of found out why. There was no notes taken. He wasn't aware of any previous statements that we gave. Excuse me, my glasses are dirty here. All right. He wasn't aware of our previous statements as to when the suspect was in our house, because none of it was written down. Not one thing was written down. He was ad-libbing. On the 21st, we met with Chief Viola, the Assistant Chief, Detective Moore, and the other detective. They explained to us it was a better way to interrogate the person by phone than face-to-face, and no further resources would be used in this case because the subject was so forthright and truthful. Pretty funny, because he has multiple felonies for fraud, larceny, and theft. He's a con man. But then a funny thing happened the next day. The same family member who's pressing charges on the individual in Upper Darby found out that he was a victim of fraud again, this time in Haverford Town, from a cell phone company on Westchester Pike in Haverford Town. Amazing, just amazing. Nobody will go interview a guy? The last question was about the lack of concern and consideration to the case. It seems that they're going to spend $15.7 million for a new police station. Us as taxpayers should be worth the overtime. We should be worth taking notes, okay? A number 2 pencil, a pad, write something down. The poor detective, he had nothing to work with, not a thing to work with. But we did learn a few things. We learned that not one member of the Haverford Town Police Department ever left the station to try to solve the crime. Not one, they never left, other than go to our house. They took no fingerprints, no notes, no nothing. We were told multiple times, right, that this is not CSI. But when somebody calls us and tells us who did it, or somebody comes in and confesses, then we'll solve your crime. We're lucky that we have the PI and a bunch of friends who are retired policemen, because they've actually helped us fight the fight.
Mr. Smith, thank you very much. We gave you an additional 3 minutes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes,
thanks.
sir. Yes, sir,
All right,
for that.
well, all I was going to say is you told me that you were going to answer me in writing in 30 days last time, right? And you didn't.
I did not say I would answer you in writing.
You did.
But we will,
Okay, you
Yep.
did, though.
Mr. Levin? Michael Levin.
Mr. Conway, the skateboard people done, would you take me after you have finished with that?
Oh, the skateboard people finished talking.
All the skateboard, well, you're the last one for registered speakers. I have to get through the registered speakers first then I can go into.
Michael Levin, 114 Mill Road. Mr. Gentili, did you present to the commissioners the email that I sent you today?
I did, you did.
Thank you. Today I presented to the commissioners, as usual, an outline of what I have written up. I'm not going to cover the whole thing. There are extra copies at the front table. I want to discuss side effects of the Harvard 7 development on a contaminated site, and also the fact that I have never received an answer to a question that I was promised well in advance. But first, I want to say that in the less than 30 seconds that the auditor presented his information, he presented no data on his method. He did not present any results, and he drew a conclusion. I have to conclude from this, he's a genius. I would like to see data from the auditor. I have repeatedly asked for this. Second, you've approved a municipal building which is splashed all over the news of Delaware County, probably without a single person in this room being able to raise his hand or her hand and say that they have seen the plans for that building. Would you please raise your hands if you have seen it? I have. I asked for it several times and finally got a chance to look at it. It's a non-impressive building. It looks like a large ranch-style building. It is sliding down the road, sliding down the parking lot toward Naylor's Run. It is built on 2 levels. I recall that one of the architects for that building came to a meeting and mumbled something about not being satisfied with the founding of that building. It is impossible for me to understand why you continue to pursue this without showing the residents of this township what they're paying for. Now, on the side effects of Harvard, of Harvard 7 development, which is on a contaminated site, gradually I pieced together why development has proceeded there. In the first place, I believe that there has been a desire to see that site cleaned up, tested, and turned into profitable real estate at any expense. The expense in this case is not removing the contamination. People there are upset. They're very upset. If I can raise my voice about this, the magnitude of the development does not protect individual sites over the long haul. Second, the individual sites have to pass a very complicated procedure, which is known as Act 2, which I believe on this site is way too small to provide it for each lot. And third, the children are playing in that site at this point, and people are telling them, well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I find that absolutely impossible. Now, you can read the rest of it, but I would also tell you on the air testing, I asked a question of the man who was presenting to the wards 3 and 4. I asked him a question about the why. When were they going to do the testing? This has been going on for years and they don't answer, and they're evasive. I'd like an answer, and a non-answer is not satisfactory. Is this building safe or not? It's on contaminated land. I'd like an answer directly. For Mr. Siegel, if I can point out one commissioner who has fostered these meetings and refuses to provide an answer himself. Thank you very much.
That's all the registered speakers. Now we will, I'm going to go by row for anybody that would like to come up and speak for 3 minutes on agenda items. So, row 1 here. You know what, let's hold on 1 second because they won't be able to hear you on the television.
Good to see you guys. This is just about Lucetta, and and first off, I want to thank Dan Siegel for notifying us that there was going to be something, and also for creating it. I think that was just really lovely and nicely done. I'm so glad that some of the folks from Quadrangle were able to come. And second, Lucetta Alderfer was indeed honored as a Haverford heroine back in 2008, and that was a special time. And along with Roberta Ehrenberg, and they're both really amazing ladies. And Roberta is still around, according to Jane L. Machette, who maybe just walked out. But she sees her every once in a while at Quadrangle. And third is, with an imaginary glass, anybody who's still around that remembers her, let's hold it up and say to Lucetta, what a great lady. And we respect you, appreciate you, and think the world of you. You're loved. Thank you.
To Lucetta. Continuation of this row. Second row. Third row. Fourth row. On this side of the room, first row. Second row. Third row. Fourth row.
Hi, my name's Gene Wazorek. I'm at 544 Washington Avenue. I'll be quick. The homes are building behind my house. The latest thing is today, I'm sure nobody here is aware of it, while they were digging, they found another tank. They stopped digging. I don't know what they're going to do, but the smell is unbearable. The tank is in the southwest corner, about 20 feet off of Mr. Booth's property. It's a buried tank, and like I said at the last meeting, they're afraid to put a spade in the ground. Every time they dig, they find something else. Now we have a big tank. It's got to be at least a 500-gallon tank, and that's the latest. I'm sure when they dig again, they'll come up with something else. It's a no-win situation. They need to stop. Thank you.
David Freed, 548 Washington Avenue. Following up Mr. Wazorek's comments, again, I was there, witnessed this today. We got footage again of, just saturated oil in what's called Lot 2, I guess. Also, last week, we witnessed them digging in Lot 1, which even we believe was going to be probably the cleanest piece of the land back there, and that was gray, saturated, and if we understand things correctly, that soil's kind of been set aside, if you will. They're kind of separating it. But, again, it's just the ongoing concern, the odors, let alone all of the different things that, we've expressed in other meetings. This developer, has operated poorly with pumping into the creek for 6 hours, as we've brought up before, hauling soil off other places, things like that. But I think that when we were here 2 months ago, I think, if I understood correctly, when we watched the video again, it sounded like there was going to be a letter sent or something like that. And I at the last meeting, we forgot to bring it up, and it sounded like you were going to check with Senator Leach, I believe it was, and some others, but there was, just a handful of to-do items on that, and I could send an email in follow-up, but, I think there were 7 things that Mr. Byrne had recommended that we should contact his office, and I realized after watching it that I didn't do that, so I'm still open to reaching out to you. I think there were 7 items you said that we should do as far as trying to get a halt on things. Again, we were all for development, but it's like, until they test properly so that they can get a plan in order, I think that's what we were proposing then, Mr. Byrne. And again, I'll take responsibility for not following you up on that. But last I remember was, I think Mr. D'Amelio and a few others had suggested again that we contact Mr. Vitale's office, and we're all for that, even though I think we've all agreed that there's been no interest from Senator Vitale's office. So we're, I don't know if any emails were sent. I think it's going to be a waste in a way, but if you did it and you got any feedback or no feedback at all, that would be helpful. So again, we appreciate the support from Lori and everybody else, but, this thing just keeps, everywhere they dig, they keep finding more stuff, and it should have never been developed.
You have,
Carl Perthes, 556 Central Avenue. I also want to piggyback on the Steel Road. I've been a resident of Central Avenue for 48 years. I have watched what has happened. I've watched the league that I was involved in that was designed for 250 people, kids, grow to 4 times that size. No provisions have ever been made for additional parking, additional sanitation, making it ADA compliant. I live on a street where the parking is atrocious. Tonight, we could barely get around the corner for all the illegally parked cars. We call the police regularly. Saturday, they came, drove through the neighborhood 3 times, never stopped, never issued a ticket. My wife questioned an officer, and he said, as a courtesy to the league, we don't issue parking tickets. What about a courtesy to the taxpayers and the residents? We've contacted our commissioner, nothing happens. Years we have gone through this. Why are we discriminated against? If I go to another park and park illegally, I will get a ticket. Not in Bon Air. It's allowed. We're out of options. The only thing that we have left is take the township to court and sue them for discrimination. What else can we do? No one wants to help us, and we've had enough.
His last name.
I'm sorry, can you
Carl?
get your last name? We didn't get it.
Perthes, P-E-R-T-H-E-S.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that concludes Citizens Forum. As far as the skate park goes and parking, the Director and Assistant Township Manager of Recreation is here this evening, and the Ninth Ward Commissioner, and I do believe that that already has been settled. Commissioner, do you wish to comment?
No, as far as the skate park, I'd like to thank the Parks and Rec Committee. They looked at all 34 or so parks in the township, 3 of which were in the Ninth Ward, Richland, Steelfield, Hilltop Complex, and Murray Place at Glendale Park. And I think it's the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Board to do it at Glendale, Murray Place, on the tennis courts, which was pointed out, are already paved. They are not near residences, and as Mrs. Maness pointed out, the traffic from the Blue Route does drown out some of the noise. The skate park people talked about the lights being on at 10 o'clock. I don't think they'll be on until 10 o'clock. The skateboard people specifically requested that the park not be lit because it's not an evening thing. So we'll take a look at that, but that's up to the Parks Board as to what we do down there as far as safety and everything like that. The township, as my understanding, is going to go finalize and purchase the property adjacent to Steelfield to increase the parking for the Hilltop and Steelfield complex. Once that's done, and it's not just going to be paved over and done, it's going to be looked at, with conjunction with the Planning Commission so that it looks and acts and meets all the requirements that Township Code enforces to do that. Once we have the parking, Mr. Perthes and the other residents, the traffic will then be more strictly enforced. We're going to, it's my hope that on Steelfield, we'll not only get rid of the asphalt curb there, but there's going to be a real curb there. It's a safety violation to park on the Steelfield side on Steel Road. People pull up. We put trees there a few years ago. It hasn't deterred anybody from pulling up there to do that. But a real curb will. You won't be able to get over an 8-inch curb with normal tires. And that'll be a safety thing because we have children walking down Stump Lane to get to the field. When I was a child, a kid ran out between the parked cars and was severely injured there. Another one was killed over on Vermont Road. But that's the goal. And then to initiate and work with the Little League, the Hilltop Little League, to increase and come up with plans for drop-offs and pickup of children at both the Hilltop Field and the Steelfield Complex during both football and baseball seasons, and then the summer recreation program. So we are going to look at it. If the landscape architect out there, if she's still there, wants to help us volunteer and give us some free architectural work for the parking lot, it's my vision that it's bermed and it's landscaped so that there's still one entrance, so there's one exit, so we don't create a safety issue, but I'm going to leave that to the planners with berms and vegetation around it to protect the homes and the view of the people that live across the street and adjacent to the property. It's time. We as a board talked about this a few months ago. We need to invest in our parks. We're making investments in not only a new township administration building to service you. We've also allocated $5.5 million to renovate the library to make it more attractive to our residents. And we also need to invest in our parks. When we walked around and looked at parks a couple of weeks ago when the Parks and Rec were looking at where to put the skating. I took a drive through Lower Merion and Radnor to see their facilities. And quite frankly, our facilities are dated. We have chain link fences that are falling apart, have been patched. We've had limited resources. We've had higher priorities with sewer lines and sanitary lines that, we've gotten away from maintaining our parks. But I think we as a board a few months ago committed in a work session that we are going to start funding the parks in a more general manner. And I think the allocation of funds to purchase and correct the parking issue at Steel Field is a great example, but we want to do it right. And I think the township manager has also guaranteed me, as far as the skate park goes, when we move it out there, that we've also allocated roughly $50,000 for the skate park to improve that, because as the mom pointed out, we want it to be a first-class facility and we want it to be a safe facility. So just hauling over new equipment and throwing it on the tennis courts is not going to really be the way to do it properly. We want to buy it. The township manager and the recreation board are going to oversee it, and we're thankful that they will, and we'll do that in conjunction with their fundraising efforts. But the township is committed to build a safe skate park as well. So.
Why don't we have enforcement?
There isn't any back and forth.
The enforcement's a police issue. I did, after I got your email the other day, I contacted the deputy chief of police. I got a copy of the police report. In the police report, the officer did talk to 3 people that were sitting in their cars at the corner, waiting to pick up people. 3 people did move after they did, is what the police report stated. So, but there's constant, I did walk over there after I got your email, and there was a constant ebb and flow. By the time I got there, it was about 2:25. It looked like the games were over, and things were starting to clear up. I was kind of disappointed they're playing on Mother's Day, but that's neither here nor there. But so we will look at the enforcement again. The chief and Deputy Chief Hagan will do that. So, and I can meet with you after the meeting to discuss anything further. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, and with that new lot, you should take care of that. Okay. Next one on, let's see, we have Mr. Smith. Actually, Mr. Smith, you did meet with the police department after he came to the commissioners' meeting, but it is an open investigation. And that's why the board did not comment, because they don't comment for any police matter that has an open investigation.
Yeah, that's correct. That was my advice, yeah.
Mr. Levin, this information here about the YMCA, yep, we will, Mrs. Woodop, we'll give it to Mrs. Woodop, and Mrs. Woodop, do you know if there's any, I mean, is there an issue with the ventilation, the air ventilation system that they put in? Not that I am aware of. My understanding is that the ground that the facility itself is safe, or else people wouldn't be in there. But, I mean,
The YMCA is built on a part of the Superfund site. It's located in an area where there's contaminated groundwater that is collected behind the YMCA. And it's pumped back across Eagle Road to a treatment plant. When they did the original testing, there were no vapor intrusions in the area, and out of an abundance of caution, they designed the building with it's called a Kuplex system. It looks like little cups that create a vapor barrier under the building. Now that system has some passive ventilation capabilities. It also can be activated so that a fan will come on and it'll draw the air out and more quickly evacuate any particulate matter or vapors that are encountered in the site. I think that the ongoing complaint that Mr. Levin has had is that the sampling that was done and the air quality testing that was done by the YMCA. It's not a regulated activity. It's something they do voluntarily. They've submitted the reports and shared it with the EPA. There's been ongoing conversation between the YMCA's consultant whether or not to activate in an area if it's needed or whether to retest. So there have been testing results. The EPA is comfortable with it. We don't have copies of the reports. The EPA will not share it with Dr. Levin because it is not a regulated activity. It's done voluntarily. It would be as if you thought you might have radon in your home and you put a system like this, and if you had air quality testing, it's not available on demand.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Levin, oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Siegel?
Yeah, I'd like to address a couple of things. It's easy to stand at a podium and criticize, and it's easy to be on this side, and it's difficult to be on this side. But there is a significant amount of information. The YMCA was present at a meeting that was extremely well attended on April 20th, conducted by Commissioner McCluskey and me. As they did last year when we had a similar meeting with Commissioner Hall, the YMCA answered and addressed any and every question that was asked. The YMCA, where they didn't have answers, got back to people, and they've been responding to me. If you choose not to attend the meeting, although we like it to be our own residents, other constituents have regularly attended the meeting. Commissioner D'Amelio attended last year and participated. We welcome community participation. With regard to the YMCA, if you would look at my website that I have, all of the EPA reports are present, along with a link to the EPA website that says that human exposure is under control. There is the only document that the township has received, which was actually a copy of a letter from the YMCA from the EPA dated February 24, 2015, in which the EPA specifically addressed the exposure issues and said that the vapor intrusion does not appear to be occurring on the building, as the compounds detected in the void space of the YMCA are at lesser concentrations than what we detected in the indoor air. So the information, or as much as has been provided to the township and has been made public by the EPA, is fully available. I've tried, and I know Ms. Widup has also tried, to make certain that we disseminate whatever information we have. I'm not a scientist. I disseminate information that I receive, just like others here do. Whether that information is what you want, we may not be able to provide that. Similarly, if you have questions about the auditor's report, for example, I suggest that you look at the agenda that contains the entire checkbook. You can see the issues and raise questions. What the auditor does and discusses with our financial manager is a separate matter, and that would normally remain confidential between the two of them. And so the information is out there for residents if you want to find it, rather than simply make claims. It's a shame you didn't come to the meeting. The YMCA was open and candid very much. Thank you.
You didn't say that. You said you would answer questions.
And, Mr. Levin, please, Mr. Levin, please, you know that there isn't any back and forth, and I understand you're passionate about the issue, but please, there won't be any screaming back and forth. Thank you. And that we can segue into Mr. Freed and, well, yeah, Gene and Dave, you came up and your concerns, and you do know that it's supposed to be on agenda items, but we let you come up. The local issues that you have had, this township has addressed. Most recently, I believe, the issue with the sign in a window saying that there are cameras, and the police department did go over and investigate. There are no cameras at that location. But then there were other signs put up also. So as far as that matter goes, and as far as local matters have happened with the kids that got into the park or got onto the grounds, the police in the township did go over there to check the fences out. So there are several levels of a government, and which everybody knows. You have municipal, county, state, and federal. This township, on the municipal level, we don't have the resources to do any of these tests. That's why we have the state, the DEP, and what have you. That's the level you have to go for that at. And we have been involved in reaching out to representatives And like I said last time, I personally spoke to Representative Vitale, who said that there won't be any more meetings at this point in time. So I believe someone else on the board also said that about reaching out. We have absolutely done everything that we can in our power to address all these concerns. But the concerns that are over and above us on a state level, I don't know what else to do other than what we are doing is pestering. And I use that meaning as in we constantly are going back and forth, asking for another meeting or information. And as Commissioner Siegel said, the information that we have received was just the one letter and what have you. But we continue. Now, I see, Commissioner, you are
Well, I did
waiting
speak with Senator Leach, and at the last meeting, I recall Senator Leach's staff member was meeting with you folks there, and I met Senator Leach 2 days ago, told him about that meeting. I've not followed up since I spoke with Senator Leach, but I believed that he was going to get together with his staff member and that they were going to reach out to you folks. He did express a great deal of interest in the issue and has his own experiences with the current DEP. So I will certainly call again, but to the extent that you folks had any success or at least connected with Senator Leach's staff member here that night, was it Michelle? I forget her name. Judy. Oh, Judy. Oh, Judy. Then, so I'm hopefully that is some progress can be made there. And obviously, I can reach out again, but I was the one who indicated I would personally reach out to him. I did, and I hope something can come from that.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, Mr. President. As you know, and this board knows, I have reached out to State Representative Vitale's office many times with no response. He refuses to have a meeting. We have offered this building to host a meeting and to televise it so that you, the residents, and the residents at home that maybe ADA can't get here would be able to view what was being said and any vital information that was presented you would know about. And again, I'm just saying it again, I think that we would do it again. So the offer's there to host a meeting, to have it televised, and get information out. But we can't force them to do that. This board has reached out, and they refused, or he refused. But I thank you for reaching out for Dylan Leach, as you said you were going to do, Mr. Holmes.
And as far as Mr. Byrne, the township solicitor, I believe it was that if you see anything going on the grounds that involves someone is going to be hurt or on our level, that you contact 911 for the police to respond. As far as contacting Mr. Byrne, I believe it was going to be through Mr. Broman. I believe
Yeah, I think
you have already taken counsel.
Would you mind if I jump?
Sure, go right
for a second?
ahead.
I think the way that came up was when we were going back and forth on different ideas of what could be done. Somebody asked about an injunction, and I said there is a process, and it was a 4 or 7 or whatever number you said step process that you'd have to go through. And I said I did not have that memorized off the top of my head. I know it was irreparable harm, and I said if you want to call me or have Mr. Broman call me, I would certainly tell him. Although I have every confidence that Mr. Broman knows, how to get an injunction. I certainly couldn't do it for you because I represent the board. I don't represent all 50,000 people in Haverford. I just represent the board. But I would be happy to give you the answer or give Mr. Broman, my thoughts with respect to what would be necessary for an injunction. But I'm sure he knows that.
Okay, all right. And Jean-Marie, thank you very much for your kind words and for Lucetta. And I believe that's everything. Part was answered as far as the parking goes, and then Citizens Forum will pick back up after we have all the other agenda items. And Mr. D'Amelio, if you would please.
Yes, Mr.
go
Chairman,
on to
I'd
number
like
7.
to, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 11th, 2016.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Siegel. comments? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. McGarry, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Wexler and Mr. Connell.
Yes. Approval of the warrants, Mr. Holmes?
Mr. President, I move we approve warrant number 5 of 2016 totaling $3,130,840.16, comprising scheduled debt service payment on Series 2014 general obligation bonds due April 15th, 2016 in the amount of $160,683.75. Scheduled debt service payments in Series 2013 general obligation bonds due April 15th, 2016 in the amount of $185,591.26. The general and sewer fund payroll for April 21st, 2016 in the amount of $676,201.94. The general and sewer fund payroll for May 5th, 2016 in the amount of $676,970.37. General fund disbursements number 5 of 2016 in the amount of $1,087,332.41. Sewer fund disbursements number 5 of 2016 in the amount of $128,394.60. Community Development Block Grant Fund disbursement number 5 of 2016 in the amount of $49,607.68. Home Grant Fund number 5 of 2016 in the amount of $32,962.50. Capital Projects Fund disbursements number 5 of 2016 in the amount of $119,182.22. And the credit card statement ending April 28th, 2016 in the amount of $13,913.43.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity.
Mr. President, our warrants have been reviewed by our auditor. Any questions that his review raised were raised to our Township Finance Director, and they were answered to his satisfaction. It was his recommendation that these warrants were good and that we approve them. And I agree, and I recommend the board do the same.
Comment? There being none, take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes. Number 19, ordinance PA 2016 is finance.
Mr. President.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, I move that we, excuse me, I just lost this thing. I move that we amend ordinance number 2705 of 2013, enacted on September 9th, 2013, to revise the capital projects to be financed with the proceeds of the township's general obligations bonds series of 2013.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Siegel. Any comments on the second reading?
Mr. President, this is a second reading. It obviously passed at the last one. Just remind everybody what we are doing with regard to this amendment is to enable us to commit some of the money from the 2013 project to some of the roads work that we anticipate doing in 2016. And which was an approved project within. We are just changing the allocation of the funds.
Further discussion? There being none, take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
No.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
And Mr. Connell?
Yes. Item number 10, ordinance P9 2016, which is a traffic reading. Mr. D'Amelio.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance number P9, 2016, authorizing traffic restrictions on the following highways. Establish sticker parking only, Melrose Avenue, 1900 block, both sides, including the cul-de-sac, all hours/days, and residential parking, permit parking only signs.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Holmes.
No, not me, Wexler.
Commissioner Wexler, thank you.
Yes.
Comment? There being none, take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes. Item number 11, P10
President, make a motion to-
2016. Mr.
Make a
Wexler?
motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P10, 2016, amending and supplementing Chapter 86, Fire Prevention.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity.
This
This
is
is
an
a first
ordinance that's
reading.
been advocated by our codes department and in full support of the Bureau of Fire, notifying firefighters and our volunteers of the construction material on a beam, the truss roof, so that when, upon entering a building, it's marked to the left of there. If you've read the ordinance, special marking would go on the left side of the major entrance of the building, indicating that it has a truss roof, which is very detrimental in a fire condition for ventilation and safety of firefighters.
Any further comment, question? There being none, take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes. Item number
Can I-
12,
Can I just ask
P11
a question before
2016.
we move off that ordinance? Is there also separately some master list kept of these things so that the firefighters are alerted when they go to this place and just in case?
This ordinance has been requested by our codes department. They maintain the master list. The thought is that the identifying marker goes on the building because at 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't have an opportunity to go check a list when you're rushing it.
No, I'm hip to that, right.
But there is a list maintained by the township
Yeah.
in the codes department.
Is that something the fire department has, can?
Most fire
once a
departments
month
in their
be-
process, they go through a process called pre-planning. So all their officers and firefighters are generally drilled and will have an idea in their books and their vehicles of the type of construction and tactics that would be used in normal circumstances, if in fact any fire was always normal. But yes, they do have it in their pre-plans, so.
Good, okay, great.
In community logic?
Yeah, in our community logic system, I have access to that.
Take the roll, please.
I just did.
Oh, no, oh, that's right, okay.
Yeah,
So
that
it's
was
ordinance, it's
happened.
number
I actually
12,
voted
ordinance
for it.
number P11 2016.
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance P11, 2016, establishing traffic restrictions on the following highways. Establish stop intersections on Steel Road at both eastbound and westbound directions where it intersects with Furlong Avenue, making this a three-way stop intersection. Establish parking of all vehicles prohibited at all times over Hill Road, south side, 50 feet east of Haverford Road, no parking here to corner.
Second.
We have, turn the page, and I believe there's a,
Establish special parking zones in front of 124 Gulf Hills Road, Havertown, Pennsylvania.
Second.
okay, and seconded by Mr. McGarity. Any comments from those commissioners for those wards? There being-
The request for the stop sign at Furlong Avenue, this is a heavily used school crossing. Speeding along Steel Road has become greatly improved, as all the residents even further down by Steel Field can tell you that. So this is an attempt to traffic calm as well as protect our school children at that crossing.
Thank you. Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes. Item number 13 is the continuation of citizens' forum for non-agenda items. Again, I will go down, and I will start on this side of the room this time. Anybody in the first row? Second row? Third row? Fourth? Yeah.
Street, 548 Washington Avenue again. Thanks for letting me go earlier. I misunderstood about the agenda.
That's okay, we figured you'd...
Yeah. But the other thing we were told by our attorney to bring up is, with the Lot 5 home that's already pretty much finished, I guess, that's there, we had brought it up 2 years ago. Our initial complaint was really just how big these homes were, and again, we were for development of the property. It's just that the size of these homes And then, given the size of the parcel, these are big homes on a small parcel when you think about it. And, you know, our concern was just how close they were going to be to our properties, because I think the setbacks are the standard 25 feet or whatever. And if I don't know how it works, but if somebody could come, you know, whether it's the planning group or the engineers, and just see, because I know that they've said that, you know, on paper everything looks fine, but when you use it as an example and you see it in person, it kind of takes on a whole different look. And we're very concerned about our privacy moving forward. I mean, they've not even put a house behind us yet, even though they're proposed to. I mean, it's going to be like an enormous wall. And if you look, there's a, you know, I heard a rumor that the one property that they merged lots 2 and 3, I heard that person is no longer building. I don't know if that's true or not, but they already have a foundation there that's already up above, and they're going to put 2 floors on top of that. And I believe Mario said at one point that things are supposed to scale, you know, relative to, you know, the codes and everything else. And again, if people were to visit and see it, I think it would take on meaning to why we're so concerned about our privacy and our quality of life with regard to, and even the people moving in, if they buy those homes, that it's only 25 feet. And I mean, it's, you know, I know we can't put fences that high and things like that. So I just wish, you know, whatever the procedure is, to have someone visit or come and actually see what it looks like versus what it is on paper, it would take on new meaning. So I just wanted to bring that up again, because that's where we kind of started about all this 2 years ago, before we even understood about what McCandless was and all that. So if you could recommend anything, we'd appreciate it, is how that works as far as people looking at it in person versus just on paper.
Okay. You have to come up to the...
Sherry McClay, 1316 Steel Road. I just wanted to find out what the status of the purchase of 1320 Steel was.
It's a real estate matter, and we can't talk about it in public.
Okay.
Right before the meeting, when I mentioned that we met in executive session, and one of those was a real estate matter. So that's...
The other question I have is HGTV.
The one thing we can tell is that we are moving towards the purchase of that. I mean, we can't tell you specifics about it, but.
Okay.
All right. We had done that at the last meeting.
The other question I have is HGTV, they filmed last Tuesday on the property of 1320, and it posed a lot of traffic. They're coming back tomorrow to film. Evidently, they're doing a pitch for landscaping, and because of all the cameras, they're large cameras, people are slowing down and going around cars that are stopping. So I didn't know if they needed a permit for that, or if you even knew that that was posing a problem on our street.
Okay, you know what, I'll answer it right now then. Chief, is there a permit required for traffic?
If it's being done on private property, will you jump in with me on this one?
I will. If the filming is taking place on private property, a permit isn't needed. If there is an issue that's creating a traffic problem, however, and the police are notified.
Okay, so I can call you tomorrow if there's a problem.
Just call 911. Send a car right over there.
All right, thank you.
And what did you say we're filming for?
HGTV, they're pitching something about landscaping, so they're filming the landscaping at 1320. But they go out in the street to film
That mine done.
the people,
Come to my
so
house.
it poses a problem.
We'll keep a check on it.
All right.
You see it, just call 911.
Okay, thank
We'll
you.
rectify it right away.
Okay. And I remind everybody, 911 is not just for emergencies now that we're under the Delaware County system. 911 is anytime you need a police officer for anything, whether it's a barking dog or a suspicious nature or a medical emergency. 911 is the number to call. Okay, so that's that side of the room. This side of the room, first row, yes.
Hi there, Judy Trombetta, District Office Director for Senator Leach, also a resident of Havertown, 2113 Darby Creek Road. First, I just wanted to say thank you to Commissioner Holmes and Commissioner Siegel for reaching out to our office. I know I spoke personally with some folks, and I know the senator spoke personally as well. We are investigating into the concerns related to the municipality building there. We've reached out to the Department of Environmental Protection, and so hopefully we'll have some answers shortly. On a lighter note, I also wanted to share this. There's some flyers up there. Senator Leach is hosting a dog park day at the Haverford Township Reserve. It's a nice event. We have adoptable dogs, and we have some really great local organizations coming, and it's really fun. So I hope you all will come out. June 4th. All right.
June
Thank you.
4th. Thank you, Judy. You see your hand, yes.
My name is Loretta Perthes, 556 Central Avenue. I would like to continue what my husband already spoke about and what most of our neighbors in the Hilltop area are here for tonight, and that is the traffic concerns that we have and the parking concerns that we have during Little League time, and for the people who live along Steel Road also in the fall, because it is used by football from St. Dorothy's and from other private schools. My first question is for the chief of police. Yes, how much is a parking ticket for an illegally parked car, for cars that are parked too close to a corner?
I'm sorry, let her ask the questions and then.
Okay, that's my first.
It can't go back and forth.
Okay, that's my first question for the.
How much is your
How
parking
much is
ticket?
the park? And my second question is, have the police ever issued a parking ticket to anyone who has illegally parked on Central Avenue and/or Steel Road during these events? Or have they been instructed, as my husband spoke about earlier, that for the goodwill of the league, that they are only supposed to issue warnings? I have been down to the field many times. Our grandchildren play there. We walk, but we watch all the people who park illegally at the corners go and sit down and watch the game, and police never come, and we sit there for hours until we go home and my husband calls 911, and then he walks out onto Central Avenue to see if the police will really come and then what they will do about it. I have been down there when they have come, and I have gotten the response that my husband said, that they're just there to issue warnings, or the police officer just comes and stands there and watches the game for a while, and then gets back in the car and drives away, and the illegally parked cars stay there. The concern, as Mr. Wexler said earlier, about some fatalities or accidents that have happened, as residents of Central Avenue, if we come down Bon Air Avenue, if I'm coming from Eagle Road, and it's the day of a game, and I get to the intersection of Bon Air and Central Avenue, and I would like to turn right to go to my home, there is no way that I can possibly see to make that right-hand turn because of the illegally parked cars. We've spoken to Mr. Wexler before, and this goes back years ago, about this, and also about Fairview Avenue, and about no parking on this side signs that have been taken down, and they've never been put back.
Okay.
Okay, so will the chief of police answer the questions that I had?
Certainly, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Levin?
Trying to get a code 0. Can I get anybody ready?
Thank you. I've given my address. Do you want it again?
No.
Thank you. There are
14.
two matters that I'd like to bring up with you. First of all, on Harvard 7, let me tell you what should have been done that wasn't done. It should be obvious that with a 3-acre site, you could do ground penetrating radar and pick up that tank and pick up any other irregularities. There should have been a plan drawn up to assess the site and the direction of groundwater flow, and determine which sites showed the most potential for being contaminated and which the least, which should be developed first. Because this developer figured on one thing and one thing only based upon his Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental reports. Dig a hole, put a building in, fill it up, get rid of the material at your leisure. Okay? That's unsatisfactory. That should have been known to the planning board. The planning board should have required stipulations. You have had stipulations on a number of other things, and those should have been put in place. Now, let me tell you also, where did I get this material from? What model did I follow to write this out explicitly? I used the example of Flint, Michigan, suffering from a similar problem, only that time with water coming through lead pipes from a source that was contaminated to begin with. These people are experiencing, at Harvard Square, are experiencing the same withdrawal symptoms that the people in Flint, Michigan are presented with. In this case, nothing is being allocated for that except Bill O'Connell's goodwill in going over to check out the circumstances, which is appreciated. However, $5 million have already gone into Flint, Michigan's mental health problems. Air testing at the Haverford YMCA. Commissioner Siegel brought out everything, but answering the question, was this submitted during the question period? And I have stated at the bottom of this statement explicitly what he has said in his email, which indicated this as a matter that could be settled by submitting a question. I feel that his answer was completely evasive and completely non-descriptive. If there is, on the other hand, or are, materials present in the township manager's office or in community development, I want to see everything the YMCA has produced, and I'll tell you why. Action levels for the reduction of contaminants are known as half of the unsafe level. Is it entirely clear? I don't appreciate the fact that EPA is holding on to those data. Thank you very much.
Have a pleasant evening. Next row.
First time anyone ever called me evasive.
How you doing? My name's Jim Snell. I'm I guess in August, I'll be a 19-year resident of 1301 Bonaire Terrace. I'm here in full support of my new neighbors that I just heard over on Central and everyone on Steel Road. Looks like I'm the only one here from Bonaire Terrace, but since we started talking about the safety hazards, I'm here to tell you, I mean, I've sat on my steps numerous times and have almost seen children hit, like right out front of my house. And what it is, and I got to give you full disclosure, my son plays ball at Hilltop. It's great that he can walk out the door. I live right next to Hilltop, the ball field. But what happens is the parents, they drop their kids off along the first baseline, right? So instead of flow of traffic going up the street, they decide to, I mean, this is constant every night. They pull in the driveways, they back out. Now you got traffic coming down the street. There's parking on both sides of the street. You got hundreds of kids in and out. I mean, it's nuts. And I mean, there's times, I couldn't even tell you, if I had a nickel for every time this has happened, I'd have a pocket full of money. I mean, when our driveways are blocked. That's a problem. When I can't get in my driveway, or my wife can't, and it happens with all my neighbors too. I would ask, I don't know if this is the right form, but if we could get white lines on each side of our driveway, painted on the street, which signifies you can't hang over the white lines, you know, you block the driveway. That would alleviate a lot of trouble. I mean, I'll be honest with you, there's almost been fisticuffs many times over the years. I'm going to be honest. But aside from that, it's the safety of the children. You know, I hear about a fatality years ago, and no one wants to see that happen. and everyone just kind of shrugs their shoulders and life goes on. But I'm telling you, I've seen cars screech, the tires screeching, kid comes running out. It is an absolute mishmash, a real cluster on my block. I don't know how easy it is or how long it would take, but from right at home plate there, which is the intersection of Bon Air and Central, if you had a one-way going up Bon Air Terrace, I mean, that would alleviate such a traffic nightmare, week in and week out.
Okay, well, let him finish, please. It's his 3 minutes.
I'm just telling you, it's a nightmare, and why parents don't continue up the street. I mean, it's like my wife says, it's like a ticking time bomb. Somebody's going to get really hurt, and I'll be honest with you, I'm shocked it hasn't happened. A lot of near misses. Something definitely needs to be done. I love watching the games, the league, and it's extremely large. You're absolutely right about that. Each year it goes up and up. And the guys that run the league, I feel, do a fabulous job, but it's the traffic there. It really needs to be looked at. So any help you guys could give would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
The back row. Well, we already went by, but okay, go. Yeah.
Jim Glepfeldy, 1300 Steel Road.
I'm sorry, Jim, your last name again?
Jim Glepfeldy, Glotfelty.
Thank you.
1300 Steel. I've been there since 1976. Years ago, that Central used to be one way, just during the ball season, and that helped out a lot. It was just between a certain time. It could just one way. And they stopped doing it. Why? I don't know. I think it was because it cost too much money to put two signs up at each end of the street. I don't know. But if you try that again or do it again, make it go all the way through or change it around or do something with it, it'd be a whole lot maybe easier. And the other thing on McClay's property, I would like, is the tree commission or whatever that used to be still in? Yes. Years ago, when I moved in my place on the corner, I tried to cut down an apple tree. It was infested with cartner ants, and it was getting in my house. I was told I could not do it. It was whatever it is, over a certain width. They have a pin oak or an oak tree in your backyard that's got to be 6 to 7 feet across. It's got to be over 10 feet in diameter. And I'd love to see that tree stay, if anything. The rest of it is, I don't know what you're going to, there's a different elevations between the existing parking lot and their level of ground. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I'd like to see something done to save some of them trees back in there. Because there's a few dogwoods and whatever else is back in there, but, so other than that, like I said, I almost got clipped at Steel and Central coming here tonight by somebody coming down Steel Road, right through that stop sign. They don't care. And if you say something to blow the horn at them, they just give you the high sign or just look at you and laugh.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That will not conclude. Okay, last person. Remember, because we did go through everybody. It's
One Miss Braga to change your mind.
Okay, I want to say hi. I want to say hi to my neighbor. You're on Bon Air Terrace, and I am 532 Central.
532 Central.
Other side of the. Yeah, I'm on the other side.
And your name is?
No, I said Julianne DeFrancisco. I'm at 532 Central Avenue, right next to Hilltop. I don't have a problem with the field. I do have a problem with the balls coming over DeMarco's and our house. I have 8 grandchildren. She has 2. And I have such a collection of baseballs. I mean, I requested from Fred Steigerwalt to help me out. I've been there 38 years. The kids are getting good. That's all I can say. I mean, they're really hitting a lot of home runs.
But it's not the right age. Okay, just one person, sorry.
And
'cause we're
as all
recording
I'm
it.
asking is, could you put a net so my grandkids could play in my yard and her grandkids can play in their yard? They're always on my deck. It's like they're confined to my deck, And the other thing is the dumpster. It's right next to my house on the other side, right next to my deck. I mean, I come out my deck and there's the dumpster, which, maybe there should be some kind of cover thing on it or something. And once the summer league is over, it would be a good idea that they take it away, because even during the time that everybody's playing, I get guys that work the field, who coaches or whoever they are, and they pull their trucks up and they dump all their trash in that dumpster, which I don't think is right. I mean, none of us neighbors put any trash in that dumpster, but these guys think that, we volunteer to work so we can just dump our trash. And you're talking big stuff, like furniture and all kinds of wood and all kinds of stuff. Trust me,
It's a private one.
And also about the parking, there are people that work that field that pull right in that parking lot there. So to me, that's a big safety issue for those kids, because eventually they have to pull out. And people are always walking along there, So maybe there should be some kind of rope or fence or something that during the games, these lazy people can park somewhere else, because to me, that is a big issue for these kids.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's answer some of these questions and concerns, and let's get right to the issue here with Steel Field and Central and everything. I just want to comment that a lot of the stuff does begin with the homeowner reaching out, but with a phone call, whether it be to the police department or your commissioner or Parks and Recreation. They have their meetings too. And that's where all this will be resolved, okay? Because you had a lot of great ideas with lines and what have you. I live across the street from a former elementary school, and I love being across the street from it, watching the games and what have you. But yep, every once in a while I get tennis balls and I get baseballs, and it's the golf balls I have issues with. And that's I'm going to say part of life or what have you, from where I live. But what we did on our street several years ago, because there was an issue with people coming down the street, dropping people off, and then making a U-turn, the senior center is there too. So a couple of occasions, my daughter at the time, she was very small and on a tricycle, and that tricycle with a little kid on it is no more than maybe 2 foot off the ground or what have you. And at the one time, honest to goodness, I was on the front porch. I came off that porch so fast, it was Superman didn't even have any. He has nothing on me. That person pulled into the driveway, and I was right over there. So my point was, what we did is the residents on the street met with the commissioner. We got a petition up to who was all in agreement and made the street one way. And it's a legal one-way street. So, and what that did is it didn't knock down the volume of people attending. It organized it, which is a great help. Commissioner Wexler?
Yeah, I think we can take a look at some of the ideas on the one-way streets. And I'm guessing the one-way signs have been removed for the same reason they were removed on my street, that they're not enforceable. So somebody driving through the street in a non-enforceable area is not going to get a ticket. I can answer Mrs. Perthy's question, though, because I know firsthand, I get, in addition to your complaints about parking, I also get the complaints from the parents whose kids play ball who get the tickets. And as a matter of fact, the largest complainer last year was our state representative Santoro's wife received 2 citations for illegal parking on Steel Road. One during football and one during her daughter's softball game. And it was just kind of, yeah, so, but yeah, so it is, and I get the complaints for people that do it all the time. So I can save Chief Viola from coming up and saying, yes, go research. I get the calls from people that do it, and then it becomes, and my attitude is, if a police officer comes to me, I tell them to write a ticket, because if the court system wants to throw it out, that's up to the court system. But our police officers do a great job of doing their job, and they have some leeway when they're doing things, when they're talking to people. But at other times, they give tickets when they feel it's worthy of it. And I support them. If somebody wants to fight it and go to court, and the district justice wants to throw it out, that's up to them. But my feeling, being the commissioner in that area, is if it's parked illegally, they can give them a ticket if they so desire. If they're just dropping off and moving, that's up to the judgment. I do feel that the police officer does have some leeway when talking with the people. But yes, they do get tickets. Some of the one-way suggestions we'll take a look at. The way it has to be done now is the commissioner can't just go tell the police chief to put it up. Our traffic unit will go study it. They'll do traffic counts, and they'll come back with recommendations as to whether we can do it, if it's a good idea or not. So that's what I'll ask for them to do, is a traffic study, to look at the one-way street there. But the best advice I ever got when I first took this job, just remember, when you put a stop sign or a one-way sign at one street, there's some type of effect down the block at the next corner and the next 2 corners, because it's going to have a ripple effect whatever you do. So that's why that we do study those things in detail, to find out what the traffic impact's going to be, not only on that street, but the next block and the next 2 blocks. So we do that.
You didn't answer my questions, and the chief.
Yeah, the chief, he's more than welcome to come up.
You said you didn't want him to come up. so-
No, to answer that one question.
And the question of how much his ticket is $25.
It's $25. And the second question was, have the police been told to not ticket the cars?
Absolutely not.
So that is
Absolutely
false.
not.
So
If
a
a
police
police-
officer takes it upon himself, then I'll listen.
Okay. A police officer, as the commissioner said, has leeway. We pulled his report up that you questioned the other night. The officer was there. By his report, there was 3 people standing next to their cars. They're not going to write tickets. They moved their cars immediately. There was 2 other people sitting in cars. They moved them immediately. Any other cars that were there, he wrote tickets on. But
He did write tickets.
Yeah.
he did. Yes,
Mrs.
he-
Perthy, please, we can't go back and forth. We can't.
I can't tell you how many tickets have been written over there. I don't have that in front of me. I have to research that. But your parking problem is not unique. The whole township, anybody has fields, has the same problem. I live next to a field. I know exactly what you're talking about. I go through the same thing. It's not always easy. If there's a problem that I see, I call the police just like anybody else would do. I get no special treatment. I make the call, they send the car down. So we instruct our police officers around these parks, when they're parked illegally, write tickets, and that's how it is. So the deputy chief has already sent a memo out to patrol to take special attention to the area around Hilltop Park, and we will be over there on a nightly basis. Anyone who is parked illegally will be ticketed. Okay?
Because everyone here, this is for the safety of the children.
Fully
We get it.
understand that.
It's-
Absolutely.
So that-
If you want to continue, after we break up, and that's fine, after our meeting is over, because it looks like that with everybody here, the next step to take, be it through your commissioner, the police department, and Parks and Recreation, not to mention that we just purchased a property, I believe, we're going, let's see how this works out as well. I mean, it's believe me, your issue has not fallen on deaf ears. So we are moving forward. Am I wrong in that? Am I not getting that?
We are.
Okay. I thought, so that's it for the Citizens Forum. As far as, Mr. Freed, you were saying it's the size of a home. Are they compliant? The height of a home? Mrs. Woodop, as far as code goes in the township, all the homes that are there are compliant with the township regulations?
Yes. And the
Okay.
inspectors do check that when they're out there.
Is there a limit to the height of a home in the township?
A single-family home is permitted to be 35 feet in height. That's measured from the average grade at the front of the structure to the mean height measured between the eave and the ridge. So it's 35 feet from that point. It's very specific.
Okay. And I know I'm just,
Can you do that in English?
yeah.
If you find the
It's
middle,
anything under 100 feet is okay in Haverford Township.
if you find the middle height between the eave and the ridge, at the front elevation, it's 35 feet.
You mean the
Okay.
bottom of the roof and the top of the roof?
Yes.
They
Yeah,
can
It's a lot more
go,
than the eave and the ridge.
on a
Most
gable,
people.
the eave and the ridge.
And
These are gables.
this also can be researched online
It's in the township zoning code.
in the zoning code, and they could find it under,
Zoning, it's R4, so 182-206C.
182-206C. I knew you would, wow, you would know that.
Old dog.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's see. Ms. McClay, you had the issue with where are you over? Okay. So you know that if there is an issue tomorrow, to call if there is a traffic issue, and that's the 911 number. Let's see. And the other one, Judy, you gave your stuff. And let's see. And again, I reiterate, Mr. Levin, that the person doing the developing over at Harvard 7 had to come before the zoning commission, had to come before the planning commission to comply with township regulations. I don't think he's just opening up the ground and dumping homes in there. And again, if he has met the township's compliance, then that's where we bring in a higher state level. I don't know what more to reiterate, that we have to go to the state for anything else, such as the DEP, and that's your biggest concern.
I'll answer that next time. I think you do have an obligation.
And please, don't even say that we haven't done our due diligence and not met any obligation by the residents. That is the wrong accusation to make.
You can't.
That
you
is the
can't be
wrong
doing that.
accusation to make.
You can't go
This
back and forth.
board is not ignoring anything that's going on over there. And you know what? You've got me passionate right now about it, too. Are there any questions? I'm going to move on now to the, prior to the closing of the meeting. Does anybody have anything under new business?
Mr. President?
Mr. Holmes.
I think since we won't have a work session between now and the next session, we should at least announce, the next special meeting, we should at least announce the agenda for the meeting 2 weeks from now.
That's a good idea.
And just make a point of stating the three things that are going to be on the agenda for that night. I'd leave it to you, or I'd take the
Absolutely.
floor.
I was going to give it to Mr. Gentili for
Good.
as far as the
Excellent.
agenda goes, on what we're going to. Go ahead.
We'll be awarding the bids. The bids are coming in for the construction of the new buildings. We'll be awarding the bids, and we're doing an intent resolution for future borrowing of funds to fund some of the construction. And then the third item on the agenda will be
The library.
a Keystone grant for the library. And the meeting has been already placed on the township's website, and will be advertised on the local newspaper.
And that is May 23rd, Monday, May 23rd,
7 p.m.
7 p.m. here in this room as a special meeting, okay, in 2 weeks, okay? All right, and anybody else have anything under new business? I'm sorry.
Just related to that topic, how do you go about awarding the job? Is it just strictly low bidder, or do you have like some kind of language, responsible contractor language?
There is, yes. But you know what, after the meeting,
tech library.
please come up and, yes, there is a process, absolutely, okay. All right, Mr. D'Amelio,
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple of things. One,
We'll articulate the problem.
Bill Wexler and I don't always agree. He certainly doesn't need me to defend him. But I can tell you, he's always on top of what goes on in that ward. And it's not unique to just your ward. I have a park in my ward. I have speeding in my ward.
Quiet.
You know, it's not easy. A lot of these communities were built during the 50s when there weren't many cars and people can walk to the parks. We have the same issue in the first ward. And believe it or not, when we've had the police out there and they're speeding, it's our own neighbors speeding. It's your neighbors that are speeding. Some of it is your neighbors' illegal parking. And sometimes the police throughout the country get a bad rap because either they're too aggressive, and they're way too aggressive, or now they're too lenient. I mean, the chief just said they have to use their discretion, and they try to work with residents and say, please. Now, if they're not going to move their car, that's another story. If they're standing by their car and they ask them to move and they move, I mean, I'm looking at a map now of your area, and I don't know how people can go to those games. There is no parking. Well, I understand that. And kids, believe me, we have them in my ward. It's a concern. It's a concern for Mr. Wexler. It's a concern for the police department. It's the same thing. I mean, I live on a corner, and I come into my neighborhood, and I turn into my driveway, and sometimes it's my neighbor speeding, going through the stop sign, almost hitting me, and I have my turn signal on, then I'm going into my driveway. So we all have issues with speeding. We all have issues with people going through stop signs. People have to realize that you have to slow down because you're in these residential neighborhoods, and there are children. It's very difficult. But again, I support the police 110%, and I know Bill's on top of it. If you just reach out to him, he'll get in touch with Hilltop, and maybe they can make some changes there. Some changes with the trash, or some changes with parking, and maybe they can assist, have somebody out there. I don't know. There's so many things you can come up with, but work together as a community and talk and meet, and some of those things may be able to be resolved. And certainly the police in their investigation, this is separate from I trust them 110%. They do a great job. Some residents, or this resident, didn't like the fact that we cannot comment on investigations. Well, we can't. It's the same thing. We can't comment on real estate matters when there's negotiations taking place. You can't do it. So I fully support them, and I know that they're doing a great job. And they work in the community. I've worked with many of these gentlemen right here that come to my first ward meeting and work with the residents. I've worked with them on many issues in the first ward. And I'll tell you what, they live in the community. They care about the community, and they're out there trying to make our lives better. It's a very difficult job today. It's one that I would not want. You can't sit in your police car without fear of getting shot. That's fearful. So, having said that, there's a fundraiser for the children of Officer William Albertus. It will be held at the Clothier Hall, I'm sorry, can't read your writing there. Armenian Church in Wynwood and Lancaster Avenue on Friday, June 10th from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Tickets are $35 and can be purchased from any police officer or at the police station. So can we put this on the website too? And maybe put it on our community access channel? And those of us who have emails, to our constituents, and I know Dan can put it on his website. As you can see, it was very emotional, and I feel for the family. Many of us attended the funeral, Mr. Wexler, myself, Kevin, thank you, Kevin, sorry, Dan, and Chris and Jimmy were there, so it was a very emotional service. I also want to thank the board for your condolences for the passing of my father-in-law. I appreciate that, Larry. Appreciate
7 to 10.
your sympathy. And that's all I have right now.
Mr. McCluskey?
Sure. Changing some of the topics from some of the issues that we discussed at the meeting tonight. I know we've had some rain past couple weeks, and there are some spring events and hopefully some nice weather coming in the areas in and around the 3rd Ward. And just to highlight some of them, And also to reiterate what the commissioner said, that in every area in Havertown where there's a park, there's similar issues, and the board is aware of them and works with the police and the residents to both meet the needs of parking and the residents who are trying to get to those events. But so anyway, some events that are in and around the Third Ward that sort of celebrate the happening of spring. In the coming month, the St. Denis Fun Fair continues this week, Wednesday through Saturday. I know a lot of people were unable to attend because of the weather last week. I worked there on Friday night, and it was low attendance. So hopefully everyone can get out this week and support a great event that St. Denis puts on yearly. Along the same lines, one of the local elementary schools, Coopertown, has their Highland Fling Spring Fair coming up this Sunday from 2 to 6. The Oakmont Farmers Market starts May 25th and goes all summer. And there's yard sales in the neighborhoods of Merwood Park this Saturday, and then on the Saturday of May 14th in the Paddock Park area. So, the community is coming alive, and that's part of what makes this community great, is that as the weather turns, there's lots of events that involve families and children and activities in the area, and I think that's important to keep in mind as we consider all the issues that we face.
Thank you. Mr. President, before you go to Dan, just let me say one other thing. I'm sorry, Dan. Vice President Mario Oliva lost his dad last week, and I would ask that you say prayers for Mr. Oliva and his family. It's a very sad time as his dad passed quite suddenly. So I want Mario to know that we're all thinking about him and we're praying for his family.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Siegel?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank Commissioner McCluskey and the variety of people from the township who attended our constituent meeting, which included Township Manager Gentili, Assistant Manager Lori Hanlon-Widdop, the Township Engineer, Chief Viola and Deputy Chief Hagan, and some others. One of the things that came out of that that's relevant tonight was that Mr. Pannoni provided an excellent overview of traffic and how it impacts the township, major roads, side roads, in relation to the growth of the population. And it led to a very good discussion. It was, I think, in all my years as a commissioner, it was probably the best single item discussed at any constituent meeting. I'm trying to get the graphic from Mr. Pannoni. It really opens eyes as to the volume of traffic that we all face. People just don't realize, the number of cars on Eagle Road and all the other roads, and what they do. And I just want to thank them for attending the meeting, and we'll try to get that information out because I think it's very helpful. The other is that I have received a large number of questions about the property that is the Continental, or was the Continental Auto Parts property at the corner of Lawrence Road, just behind Tony Roney's, off of Eagle Road. And I have toured the property. I've met with people who are dealing with it, and and they've asked me, and I'll give a report. The property was purchased by a corporation that is clearing the property. Clearing properties is done under the supervision of the township for safety, for health reasons. They have cleared all of the trees and everything from Lawrence Road, which has improved the appearance. All of those trees were rotted, and none of them could be salvaged. The building is in surprisingly decent shape, and I'm certainly no expert. It's a solid concrete construction. After the building is completely emptied, the owners plan to bring in an engineer and an architect to evaluate whether the building can be salvaged, what it would cost to rehab, or whether it needs to be removed. All of that work is being done in conjunction with the township, and although it is just off the EPA cap, the EPA is involved, and they are, they've put up fences to make sure that children don't go in there. They've had some trespassers, and they're trying to stop that. But they are working with the community in an effort to make certain that the property, it already looks better just getting rid of all of the trees and everything there. So I'll provide updates as it moves along, but they are working to turn it into a productive piece of property, remembering that that is on an industrial zone piece of property, light industrial, so it'll be probably those types of use, but they have not made any decisions in terms of what will happen until they have it evaluated by an architect and an engineer. The last thing I just want to point out is that on Sunday, June 5th, from 11 to 4 is the annual Heritage Festival along Karakung Drive, and that is always a very popular event, and I encourage everyone to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Lewis?
Yes, thank you. Couple items. With the impending College Avenue bridge closing coming later this summer, Commissioner McCluskey and PennDOT and the Haverford Township Police Department, along with the Haverford Township Manager, also invited Senator Leach and Representative Vitale to join us. We'll be hosting a public meeting on June 7th at 7 p.m. at the Coopertown Elementary School to inform the public about what's coming, to share the renderings of the bridge they're going to build, to talk about the detour route that's planned, and also hopefully talk about some potential traffic mitigation measures we can take to get us through this difficult 12-month period, and then to be followed by the Ardmore Avenue Bridge closing thereafter. So just want to invite anybody in the public to join us at that meeting, June 7th at 7 p.m. at the Coopertown Elementary School. Lastly, just want to extend condolences to the family of Officer Albertus on the tragic and sudden death of the officer. It was a nice tribute to him this evening. Also want to extend condolences to the family of Commissioner Oliva, who lost his father, and condolences to Commissioner D'Amelio, who lost his father-in-law, and also condolences to former Commissioner Ken Richardson, who lost his brother. And finally, condolences to the family of Lucetta Oliver. She was given a nice tribute tonight by Commissioner Siegel, and also by Jan Marie Rushforth. I had the privilege in my first term as commissioner to work very closely with Lucetta, and she was a very classy lady and was instrumental in helping really responsibly develop the Haverford State property. So she'll be sorely missed. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a reminder to everybody, before our next regularly scheduled work session, we will celebrate Memorial Day in America, and we will celebrate it here in Havertown in the way that we've celebrated it as long as I've been here, with a ceremony at the right outside of the police station at 11 a.m. It will be the last such ceremony before groundbreaking and construction takes place on our new police station and municipal building. So I encourage everybody to attend. Veterans from all of our armed forces are invited to this, as well as, and at that we remember those who gave their lives so that we could celebrate the freedoms we celebrate in America. So while on that day, Memorial Day, a lot of us have a lot of plans and go to picnics and do everything, it's not a bad thing that morning to remember what that day is truly all about. So that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Mr. President, one other thing. I'm sorry. Commissioner Lewis lost his sister, and we certainly feel for you, Andy, and express our condolences. I know it was hard on you. You lost your dad in January, and now you lost your sister. So please say prayers for Mr. Lewis's family as well.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Yes, Fran and I extend our condolences for your father-in-law, Steve, and Andy's sister, Mario Oliva's father, and Kenny Richardson's brother, Jimmy, which I spoke at the Grassland Field at the Legion Post 338. The only thing I want to remind people, there's quite a few there, that Jimmy Richardson was a member of the Brookline Fire Company for 20 years, and he only had a small obituary in the Daily Times, so I know a lot of people didn't see it, but in lieu of flowers, they had asked that you make a donation to the Brookline Fire Company. So anyone out there that wanted to make a donation and didn't know where to make it, it's Brookline Fire Company right here on Darby Road in Brookline. As far as, this week coming up, at this Saturday, the Grange Estate is having an attic sale which is really a flea market, and anybody has anything they want to get rid of, which is considered junk, they'd be glad to take it because actually it does resell. People buy that all the time. So if you could help the Grange out, or just go to it, and it's from 8 to 1 o'clock down there right by St. James Church, and get down the hill there, and that's the Grange Estate. I had 4 kids from Chatham Park School with Mr. Cleary. He sent me these notes, and I'll just go through it real fast. Maya Smith of 1026 Alston Road, Caroline Bates, 71 Brookline Boulevard, Ben Ismail, 219 Sagamore Road, and Marv Butko at 219 Strathmore Road. We went over there, Lieutenant Glenn and myself went over there. These kids, boy, they have a lot of questions for us. We had a great time with them. In fact, Mr. Cleary kicked us out of there. We were so long, but we had a good time, and it was great to do this with the kids. And I also wanted to say thank you to John Viola and the police. The other day, we celebrated the 100th anniversary down at the police station, and Steve Wilson did a great job with the food, and had a lot of old timers come back that were here years ago, and the celebration was great. Good job, John and Joe. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you. I'd like to offer Betsy my condolences to all your families, Steve, Andy, and Mario especially, on loss of his father. It's been a bad 2 weeks for a lot of people. They said they come in 3s, but they've come in like 6s the last 2 weeks. So our prayers go with your family. I'd also like to announce that the next meeting of the Hilltop Civic Association is May 26th, where I attend as a quarterly meeting with constituents. So if anybody out there wants to take the opportunity to come there, if we think we need the police department there, we have the opportunity to have representatives of all the departments there if we think we need it. Just email me ahead of time if you have specific questions, and we'll make sure we either have one of the officers from the police department or somebody from codes, and to do that. And then I use that also to update the Civic Association, which does a great job for us with all their contests and kids' activities, to keep them updated so that they can post on the website as well. So again, that's the quarterly meeting. My constituent quarterly meeting is there. If you'd like to come, please come, support the Civic Association, but also find out any updates. And as I get updates on what we do with the park, with the acquisition of that property next to Steel Field, I anticipate that we'll have to go through the same process to develop that any other developer would have to go through. We'll have to sit with our zoning and planning committees and get the appropriate approvals, have the Shade Tree Department Commission review it, make sure that if we have to take down a tree, which we're trying to avoid, that we also have to plant different trees in replacement of that. Usually, for every one you take down, you have to usually plant 2. So, but we will go through a process to make sure that we improve the park and not just throw something together. But May 26th at 7:30 p.m. in the Bon Air Fire Company Hall. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Schnell, it is lowest responsible bidder, and that's how the process goes. But anybody has any questions about the process and what have you, Department of Community Development, who's who you can go to at any time. The township building number is 610-446-1000, and then, or online, on all, but that's, I want everyone to remember that, sometimes we're not supposed to have back and forth conversation, because what happens is that the meeting then, you lose control and what have you. And tonight, we did take some extra liberties, have people extending time and what have you, and coming up. And I greatly appreciate, your manners and what have you, but please understand that there is also a process in running the meeting, and I have the obligation to do that as well, to everyone that's here. There will be groundbreaking is June 11th. The ceremonial groundbreaking is June 11th, Saturday, for the police station and the township building. Is Lori still here?
No.
No. Okay, because I believe there isn't a 9 or 9:30. That's what we have to find out. Okay. Chatham Park is having their run for the homeless, Maniac McGee, this coming Saturday, and everything goes towards the Salvation Army of Norristown. It is the 14th, and the race starts at 9 a.m. So if you're in that area, please be very careful with driving. Also, May 21st on Saturday is Anything with a Plug Recycling. Haverford Township, Marple Township, and Newtown Square partner together that you can, anything with a plug, other than a refrigerator, I guess, or what have you, but you can take up to the recycling center that they will have from 9 to 12 across the street from the Broomall Fire Company on Malin Road. So if you're a township resident, by all means, take your stuff up there, anything with a plug. I want to thank the Friends of the Grange. The Haverford seniors had their prom this past weekend, and they have gotten into taking these pre-prom pictures at the Grange Estate. It's a beautiful environment. The Friends of the Grange it's a volunteer organization that takes care of the historical site. And they opened it up to the seniors, and you know what? When you get a lot of students down there and what have you, I mean, it's well, I'm sure that the custodian was probably very anxious once they were done to get out, because there's a lot of delicate things down there. But they were beautiful, and I'd like to thank Friends of the Grange for that. There will be an 8th Ward and 2nd Ward combined constituent meeting on Sunday, May 22nd at 1 p.m. at Chatham Park Auditorium. And the summer edition for the municipal newsletter will be out, I think, is this week? It's supposed to be out this week. So please look for that in your mail. And does anybody have anything for the betterment of the service? I will entertain a motion.
Motion.
9 o'clock for that groundbreaking.
It is 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. Thank you very much.
9 a.m.
9 a.m., yep, sorry. 9 p.m. will be the other ceremony. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending this evening.
Is it